Well, basically, with that little pigeony intro, there are not that many pigeons in Warsaw. Today, there's the Stalin's building. Today I'm walking to work with my famous pull-along Samsonite because, well, there are several reasons actually why I'm walking to work today. And one of them is obviously I like the feeling of the being free of the car occasionally, especially when it's not too cold or wet. Right now it is fairly chilly, but I can handle it, being a fat boy. But that's one of the reasons. Obviously the other reason is to not be a fat boy, to lose a bit of weight. It's better to walk. On the way I got my new tram ticket with the face on, so I've got Frédéric Chopin's face and my face on the back of my new trams card, and you have to stand and queue up for a long time and go fill in forms and put your PESEL in. That's your unique personal number that Poland gives you to sort of control you and remind you that they're the powers that be as far as this part of the world is concerned. And this woman said, "Have you got anything that proves?" Because then she said, "I need your identity documents." So there I go, hand over my passport. And she said, "Well, what about this? Have you got a PESEL?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "But you're British though." And I said, "Well, yeah, okay. British people don't have PESELs." And I said, "Well, this one does." They said, "Well, you know, how's that then?" I said, "The same reason why I'm speaking to you in Polish. This isn't English, is it?" "Oh yes, you're right. So you live here then?" And I said, "Well, yes, I put my address on the form, didn't I?" So finally she woke up and realised that not only Polish people live in Poland, and gave me my card and let me choose from 6 possible interesting designs, including an I Love Warsaw design, which was quite fetching. Nice sentiment. I was a little bit torn between that and Frédéric Chopin, but I just thought the Frédéric Chopin was a bit more cultured, even though I'm not a massive Chopin fan. I mean, it's okay, obviously it's okay, but Chopin didn't really write for voice, and I prefer most of all music which is written for voice. So, but nevertheless, because it's showing certain cultural aspirations, which I do share, you know, I thought I'd identify more with that than with the pure I Love Warsaw. My love for any place isn't exactly unconditional, and as far as culture is concerned, this city gets about 4 out of 10. It could do a lot better than it does. It's not a cultural desert by any means, but except for in the summer when all the musicians go on holiday and don't think about the fact that tourists might want them. It's quite the opposite to Prague. Maybe that's where they go, earn a few crowns. Anyway, that wasn't the only reason. The sense of freedom, pardon me, sense of freedom, and also the losing weight, but also because they've blocked off half the city because of today's mourning, which is carrying on, the mourning for the President and the other people, over 90 people who died on that Smolensk flight. All the flags all over the place are at half-mast or have ribbons on them. Apparently you can get by this barricade if you only show a business card, but I can't exactly see how they're going to do that, since it looks like a fairly permanent blockade. If you show a business card, this tells them that you've got a parking place here out of sight, but in plain sight you're not allowed to be parking right now. Some of the major events of today will take place on that Pilsudski Square or whatever it is over there, in front of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. So that's why around here you've got to have it nice and clear, and the place is going to be milling with people a little bit later on. So that was the morning. This is the evening. This is the 7 o'clock in the evening. I've just come out of work and I'm walking towards the area that they're preparing to make this memorial service in tomorrow. Today being the 16th and tomorrow being the 17th of April. So there have been, obviously, as I mentioned this morning, this is all no parking in the whole area, about several square kilometres around the central area, which is Platz Pilsudski, which is just coming up here on the left. I shall cross the road. We'll have whether it's necessary to cross the road is another matter, to have a bit of a look at what's being prepared there. Tomorrow will be the main event, but there'll be so many people here that it'll be so difficult to get here and everything that I'm not sure that it's something which I will be involved in. I think that you'll also be able to see plenty of other people's relations of what happens tomorrow. This is more this is less so much of a special visit all the way into the centre to do it. I'm in the centre and it's where I'd normally be anyway. So we're just looking at what they've got going on here and how they're preparing for it. And obviously for those people that have got rooms in the Sofitel here, which overlooks the Platz, is going to be quite interesting. Not sure whether maybe it's a bad idea. Maybe I should really go across the way there. Have a look and see what it all looks like. That person's been practicing on his microphone all afternoon, and it does carry. It's been really getting in my train of thought as I've been trying to write my emails, but you know, it's understandable. You have to have this. You obviously have to have a big sound system up because there's going to be a lot of people here tomorrow. That's the tomb of the unknown soldier over there in the middle, over there by the National Opera. They've put up these barricades for some reason around it. I suppose moving people in particular areas or particular ways. This looks as though I'm not going to get past that. And if I'm going to have a look at anything more interesting for you, I'll have to cross onto the other side back again. So already they're putting it so that there's sort of like control on where you can actually walk, which always gets me. I understand a little bit about not being able to drive in places, but because the places just get gridlocked, but putting up barriers where you can actually walk, especially the time before and after it happens, is usually a bit of a pain in the neck. It's still cool around here, even though we've had some warm days, it's gone cool again. And they've managed to plant out these big planters that there are in Warsaw. Usually they get all the topsoil taken off as well at the end of the previous year, so they get new topsoil and new annual plants every year. Usually at least once in the summer. Usually the same plants that we've got there now will be refreshed after a few months. So you've got some earlier flowering and then some late flowering things. Not just the ones for the whole summer. I don't think it gets that good, even with those wallflowers or pansies. I don't think they've got that long a season. So, like I say, this is the Sofitel. The people that are staying here tomorrow will get probably one of the best views over the arrangements. This is where the big event's going to be, the memorial in public. Hopefully they'll have good weather for it. Here we have the altar, a simple white cross in the middle, and around it, perhaps I should go rather on this side of this one, see how it is I've wandered into the hotel's part, but around it the faces of all the people who died. Placed up there. All the flags at half-mast, and with the black ribbon at the top, Polish style of showing mourning. So here we have one of the gents in charge of sorting out the press wires. I think it was, I don't quite recognise the, here's a reportage going on with one of the television media, not sure which one, TVP, giving one of the better known news broadcasters, giving a relation of the yes, I think we've all seen that gentleman on TV a few times, giving a relation from the preparations of what's going on there. Probably thinking, another internet person taking footage and detracting from our viewership figures. Cold. This is Królewska Street, Royal Street. Nice arcade here. As we come to the end of this, of course, we will be in the Krakowskie Przedmieście, where the royal palace is, and that's where you'd expect to see larger numbers of people. If they're still queuing up, I'm not sure, but they would be queuing up to go to the royal palace and see the president and the other people lying in state. There's also other places in Warsaw where people are or have been lying at the ice rink, for example. They were placed, at first most of the bodies were placed in Torwar, which was the ice rink for identification by their other loved ones. But that wasn't necessarily the place that you'd go for the public expression of condolence. That's more this area, so we shall shortly see. What do we have here? We have a small shrine made for Mr. Komorowski and His Excellency Mirosław Chodakowski, and also for this bishop here. That may be the same person. Yes, that's the same person in military and in church garb, who is the Russian Orthodox chaplain, if you like, of the army, and they've made this shrine for that person. And the other gentleman you saw there. So we see what is going on here. As you see, tremendous amounts of people. This place is quite well designed for crowds, because it's a sort of broad street. This is where the marathon starts and finishes, as you probably remember from my marathon footage. Now let me get this bit right. Yes, the presidential palace has to be down here. So that's where it's all going to be queuing up to, if there is still a queue there tonight. You have this place, you've got the yellow and red together with the white and red. Now yellow and red is the Warsaw flag and white and red is the Polish flag. So you have the Warsaw flag up next to the national flag together there, for example on this one. You can see the Bristol Hotel in the background, modelled exactly as the previous one that was destroyed in the war and opened by Baroness Thatcher in 1992 or 3, I think. But even the original had 1899 and 1901 written up the top, and that one still has the same date. But that, of course, isn't the date of this building at all. That's the date of the original building that was the Hotel Bristol. This one's a replica of, built on the rubble of this area here, on the same place that it was before, exactly the same from the paintings that were there, as you can see. Tributes, floral tributes, with pictures of the people that they're intended for, and some nice drawings by children as well given, and the invariable candles in vases that they have, all different colours. Poems by children for the president, flowers. People selling these candles so that people can buy them and place them. 5 zlotys for a rose and 5 zlotys for a candle. One person has candles available at 3, 4 and 5 zlotys. It's about 5 zlotys for a pound, so we're not talking about people ripping people off here, I don't think. But certainly you could call it a roaring trade. And I don't know the extent to which it's obvious where you join this queue, but here we have an interesting thing happening. People's candles are added in afresh, added to this, and when they burn out they get put in the bin, and the bin gets put in that container over there and gets taken away to the glass recycling place. So what you're buying effectively is the right to have your candle burn out in that place, rather than a sort of vase that you'd come back and collect later. It's just simply thrown away and recycled. People standing up on the on that thing to take photos a bit better. You can see a so-called telebim there, which is a sort of like television screen, an outside television screen, showing what's going on inside there. People sitting there in the chapel, walking in, and there's a choir singing. It's presumably live. What's going on there at the moment? You can see Solidarity have their flag out in force. See the camera mounted very high there on the crane. So that's the presidential palace behind there, where the president is at the moment. And how exactly that queue works to get in there, or if indeed this is in fact a queue, is impossible really to tell from where I'm standing now. Sorry. At this point it becomes rather hard to move, and it's one of the reasons why I'm not sure it's necessarily the best idea to be coming here tomorrow, especially not with children. You can easily lose your kids, that as well, and your mobile phone and your wallet if you're not careful. So, sorry. So, that's the way it's looking here at the moment. I shall gradually leave the area and walk home. You can see a clear, not so much shock, people have come to terms with it by now, but still you can see commitment on people's faces to honour those who have been killed in this tragic incident. Some sorrow, still disbelief on some people's, but less of the shock than there was a few days ago. More people have kind of discovered as they've woken up morning after morning that this is the new world they live in, that hasn't got those 90 people in it, that these terrible things have happened and there's nothing that they can do about it. So now it's just a question of that they're committed to pay their dues, to pay their respects, and so they come in enormous numbers. Poland being, of course, one of the more populous countries of Europe. I remember when I left Russia to go back to Poland, the Russians said to me, well, you know, why are you leaving this huge country with all of its massive possibilities to go to a tiny place like Poland? The Russians couldn't believe it. Said, you know, you get on well here in Russia, we all like you, you like us. What are you going back to Poland for? It's just tiny. What could you possibly do there? I said, well, you know, it's not exactly that tiny. And I said, yes, but look at the map. Poland would just be a province of Russia. And I said, well, yes, okay. But let's not forget that a lot of that is just trees. There's not that many people in it. Well, there can't be that many people in Poland either. And I said, well, you might be a little bit surprised at that because Poland has a quarter of the population of Russia. And they said, no, that can't be right. A tiny little country like that can't have a quarter of the population of Russia. But it does. Poland has always been quite a populous country. So in terms of where it is in the world, and indeed in the biggest intake into the European Union, which took place in 2003, the additional 10 countries joining to make it from 15 up to 25, and then afterwards of course another 2 joined, Romania and Bulgaria afterwards. But of the ones that joined in 2003, the population of Poland made up half of the people joining the European Union at that time, and then the other 9 countries made up the other half, the other 9 taken together. So we're not talking about a small country, and you can certainly get the feel of that sometimes when you see the size of the crowds that come. And we're not talking about really the necessarily the whole country, because obviously a lot of Warsaw people have been able to come even without making a great big effort. I mean, for me it was a walk round the corner. You've just seen me do it from where I was anyway. But some of these people have come, and obviously not everybody can manage it, but some of these people have come from all over the country, from 10-hour train journeys away. And it'll be the same getting down to Krakow. It'll be the same in Krakow tomorrow, or sorry, on Sunday, when the President and his wife are buried in Wawel Castle in Krakow, a traditional seat for the burial of kings and heroes of Poland's history. Some people have criticised the decision to place this president in that particular place. I support it personally. He definitely was a patriot. He definitely was somebody who took a great role. Obviously everybody's heard of Lech Wałęsa around the world, but I mean Lech Kaczynski was shoulder to shoulder with Lech Wałęsa, and Lech Wałęsa makes no secret of it. Nobody needs to make any secret of it. They wouldn't get away with it. But fighting the last vestiges of communism and being part of what, not just Poland, but other parts of Europe as well, in the east of Europe, and probably also, you could say, benefited the whole of Europe. West also, the fact that freedom was earned by people that were willing to stand up for it. And that's, you know, if you had a list of names, of 10 names, I don't want to say where you'd be, where anybody would be in that top 10 list, But you know that Lech Wałęsa is in that top 10 list, and you also know that Lech Kaczynski is in that list. And where they come relatively really doesn't matter. And I wouldn't have the slightest hesitation in putting Lech Wałęsa into Wawel, although obviously I hope that he will live many more years, and I don't have any hesitation about having these two there either. So this street is like Poland's beating heart. You've got this church is where the heart of Chopin is actually entombed in one of the walls of the church. And now we have to watch out for where we're going, because it's not quite clear where you're supposed to go and how you're supposed to have... Oof, it's a heavy rope. How you're supposed to deal with this. So there aren't any signs saying, oh, by the way, if you don't want to get on the wrong side of the rope, change here now. You've got to kind of improvise. Sorry, there'll be people there. I left it at the same time somebody else nearly took his head off. So, daffodils. So this is just, oh sorry, you can't walk without bashing into people. Nobody's apologising to me, you'll notice, just me to them. It's obviously always my fault. So, so here we have it. I'm just giving you the atmosphere there is out on the streets on the day before the big memorial event, and how people have just come out in huge numbers to pay their respects. How many of them will actually get to go in there, and how many of them will go up to where I did and then come back, I don't know. How long they'll have to wait if they do decide to find their way to the back of that queue and get in there somehow is something I can only guess at. I was reading in the paper something like 14 hours at one point, but whether that's true or not, I don't know. I certainly would credit it, look, from what I've seen there. And whereas there was some semblance of order in the thing that I saw in the internet today, I couldn't see any kind of order at all in the crowd that I saw a moment ago there. Somebody's obviously important enough to be able to have come in here, and I've got that person to hold up the rope for them in a rather elegant way, with the police looking on, so obviously they have nothing against it. But in the main, the police today, they found it hard to stop people from getting into their garages. So they usually allowed people, if people said we've got a garage, then they would allow them to come along. So this is a person who's got Pakuti, 40 million nienarodzonych wyskrobanych. Nie oddał dyplomu, nie został ukarany. Gdzie to było?
W Polsce.
Ale to nie ma abortu w Polsce.
A, 56-93.
A, no to tak, no to owszem. No to owszem, to fakt. To fakt. No to dobrze pani robi. Dziękuję za to. Szczęść Boże. That's somebody who's drawing attention to the number of abortions that there were still in the communist period. Standing there all day long for her belief in the, which I share by the way, that the unborn who are aborted, you know, that basically their blood cries to heaven for a vengeance. But she's standing there, 40 million. I didn't know that there were so many people aborted in that time in Poland. Of course, under communism there was no truck with the Catholic view that you shouldn't have abortions, so they just went ahead with it. But I didn't even realise that. I always thought that a certain Catholicism had always held sway here. That probably people to this channel know I'm not really I'm not at all Roman Catholic, but I have a lot of differences with the Roman Catholic Church. But of course, Protestants in the main and Catholics in the main are pretty much of a muchness on not wanting, abortion, and in condemning the practice of abortion. You can talk about, exceptions here and there. What happens if the woman's raped? What happens if, there's some kind of health problem? But we're not talking about 40 million rapes or 40 million health problems there. We're not talking about that. Now they've turned Michael Copernicus, or rather Nicholas Copernicus. It's Mikołaj. The N changes to an M in Polish, but there's still Nicholas. They've turned him into a transsexual. So, as you see, liberal views are still starting to affect Poland after all this time, and I'm not sure that people that have come here to look at the Kaczynski and PIS party members' funerals will greatly appreciate what was on that poster. Maybe it would have been more sensitive not to have it there, but students will be students. That's a student place. So there you go. Okay. Well, we're here really at the end of the Nowy Świat Street, or rather, sorry, at the beginning of Nowy Świat, the end of Krakowskie Przedmieście, so I shall call a halt to this. The light's going anyway, and I shall start to go home.